Hello, everyone. This is Mr. Combs, and I want to talk about the four main genres that literature can be divided into. A genre is basically just a category, and even though works of the same genre may be different, they will share some basic characteristics. And the four genres that literature is divided into are fiction, nonfiction, poetry, and drama. Fiction and nonfiction are examples of what we call prose. Prose is writing written in paragraphs as opposed to stanzas and lines like poetry or dialogue like drama. And fiction is narrative writing drawn from the imagination rather than history or fact. So fiction tells a story, but that story is made up. There are two main forms of fiction, the novel and the short story. Novels are extended fictional narratives that can contain many plots and subplots, characters, settings, and time periods. Short stories, on the other hand, the form of fiction we will study, are shorter narratives that usually focus on a few characters and one or two major conflicts. Short stories usually are compact and focus on a single episode or one specific moment in time, although background information may be given in flashbacks. Nonfiction is prose that deals with real events and people. According to Kathleen Daniel and Fanny Saphir, in nonfiction, the characters, settings, and actions must conform to what is true. They cannot be manipulated by the imagination of the writer. The major forms of nonfiction are biographies and autobiographies, which narrate the events of the life of an individual. So a biography is a life story written by someone other than the subject, and an autobiography is someone telling his or her own story. And the essay. Essays are brief examinations of a subject in prose, usually expressing a personal or limited view on the topic. Poetry is a variable literary genre which is foremost characterized by the rhythmical qualities of language. There are three main types of poetry. Narrative poetry is poetry which tells a story. Lyric poetry is relatively short and expresses the thoughts and emotions of the speaker or poet. And finally, dramatic poetry presents one or more characters speaking to each other, a silent listener, or directly to the reader. Finally, drama involves stories that are told in action, performed by actors impersonating characters. The major form of drama is the play, and according to Richard Abakarian, Marvin Klotz, and Samuel Cohen, by their nature, plays are more spectacular than poems or works of fiction. Directors and their staffs pay great attention to costumes, set design, lights, and stage movement. The reader who does not experience these elements must imagine the action on the basis of words alone. Okay, so now we know what literature is, and we're familiar with the major literary genres. But the question still remains, why do we study literature? Abakarian, Klotz, and Cohen state one reason for reading literature is to escape, to take a vacation from our lives. Indeed, according to James H. Pickering and Jeffrey Hoper, many works of literature, classics and popular works, survive precisely because they succeed in temporarily detaching us from time and place and transporting us to some imaginary world that we otherwise would never know. Abakari, Klotz, and Cohen state, however, there is more to literature than just an escape from our lives. They point out that literature can also help us get closer to life, to understand it in a new way when we get back from our literary journey. Reading short stories, plays, and poems can help us to connect to the human experience. Literary works are often about growing up and growing older, falling in love, making mistakes, creating and losing friendships, giving birth and bringing up children, dealing with death, and many other events that are more or less universal to the human experience. According to Pickering and Hopper, just as literature allows us to participate in the experiences of others, so too it has the power to alter our attitudes and expectations. To know why we identify with one character and not the other may tell us about the kind of person we are or aspire to be. Jacobs and Roberts sum up the benefits of studying literature by saying, literature helps us grow both personally and intellectually. It links us with the cultural, philosophic, and religious world of which we are a part. It enables us to recognize human dreams and struggles in different places and times we otherwise would never know existed. It helps us develop mature sensibility and compassion for the condition of all living things. It gives us the knowledge and perception to appreciate the beauty of order and arrangement. It exercises our emotions. It gives us understanding and control. It is one of the shaping influences of life. It makes us human. In fact, we often come away from a literary work with some insight that we did not have before. And many works of literature are just plain enjoyable and fun to read.